Okay, keynote speech, the last one of the day, unlocking the potential of space technology for life science. Please welcome on stage Markus Lerch, Professor of Medicine, Physician-in-Chief and CEO at LMU Klinikum. Welcome. Welcome, Markus.
Thank you. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. If you get on the subway, this is the subway terminus at Garching-Forschungszentrum, and you go to the other terminus of the line, you end up at a hospital, at LMU University Hospital. The connection between the TUM Forschungscenter and the hospital of LMU is called the brain train in colloquial Munich lingo, because there are two campuses, and you may ask, why is a physician and a CEO of a major university hospital speaking at a space science event? It's quite simple. We have at the hospital a space life science program. And I will allude a little to that, and if you let me, I may introduce the setting to you. Well, we are a little older than the technical university, although we are not into rocket-propelled science, but we have a life science focus. And one of the first ever operations under general anesthesia, 3 months after a dentist presented that in Boston, was done at LMU University Hospital. The hospital was founded almost exactly 200 years ago, or it became a university hospital 200 years ago. We have always been very much involved in antiseptic and bacteria, and this is, again, a life science focus of the hospital to date. This is a very interesting discovery by Hugo von Siemsens. He was the first to apply electric shock to the human heart, and this is the basis of cardiac pacemakers and defibrillators today. And this is also important for Escherichia coli was discovered at our children's hospital, and brain research. The greatest result of brain research at LMU Hospital was probably the discovery by Alois Alzheimer of a certain type of dementia. And brain research is a focus of our life science program in space. And the first transplants were also performed in Germany at our hospital. And the interesting thing is the university medicine, the founding faculty, is 550 years old. The hospital is, a year from now, 200 years old. The campus in Großhadern I told you about, which is at the other end of the subway line, is 50 years old. We just celebrated this. And our space research is 25 years old. This is an article from the national daily, the Süddeutscher, where the first results of space research on Earth were reported, and it was from a LMU hospital group, and it was conducted at the Mir and not at the International Space Station. And one of the few people who knows both the Mir and the International Space Station is Thomas Reiter, and Thomas is sitting right there. You see him in the panel discussion after this. Just a brief overview over this hospital. We treat over 500,000 patients, which makes us one of the largest hospitals in Europe, university hospitals in Europe. With 11,600 employees, we are almost a small city with our own fire department and our own energy production and all these things. 48 departments, 53 in interdisciplinary center, 2,000 medical staff, and we are like the United Nations with 121 nationalities among our staff from all corners of the world. I don't know if you realize that if Germans think of the most diverse city in terms of immigrant, they always think of Berlin. That's because there are pockets of Berlin like Neukölln and other parts where only foreigners live. Munich has a 4% higher proportion of foreigners, of foreign-born nationals living as citizens of the cities, and no one ever talks about it. It's because they work at the TUM, they work at LMU, they work at Google, Apple, Facebook, Airbus, and they don't populate distinct areas of the city. And this is what we are most proud of. We get almost as much money from third-party funding, including for aerospace research, as we get from the Bavarian government. And we have a lot of MD, PhD programs. We have habilitation, DSc degrees, and this is the largest group of medical students you have at any German university. So if you want to recruit, we are a very good place to recruit. Man has been fascinated by the skies and by space for centuries, for millennia, actually. I'm showing this because I looked at it a few months ago when I visited Halle. Many of you are familiar with the Nebra sky disk. It's almost 4,000 years old, and it shows not only the sun and the crescent moon, but 32 different stars, and these are the Pleiades. So they were very accurate observers at a time. The interesting thing for me, no one knows what language these people in the Bronze Age spoke. Some think they were Celts, so they would speak something like Irish, or something. Some people think, some researchers think they were Germanic tribes that spoke a predecessor of German, and some claim they were Slavic, but the Slav migration came probably much later than this. Life science on Earth and in space has developed pretty much in parallel. The microscope was invented at around 1590 and made its advent in the 17th century. And the telescope and the microscope developed almost in parallel. And the same is true for scientific breakthroughs in the 19th century. When Uranus was discovered by the help of an improved microscope. It was by Friedrich Wilhelm Herschel, who was, when he discovered Uranus, he was a German. When he discovered Ceres, he had changed his nationality to British, just as an aside to this. And the development of X-ray Röntgen was a professor of physics at this university when Röntgen beams were discovered, and Alzheimer's disease is something that has become an extremely investigated disease. And that developed in parallel with the imagination of going to space. To me, one of the most fascinating figures of spaceflight is Hermann Ober, you may have heard about. He's a German from Transylvania. And in 1923, he published everything from liquid fuel to rockets in a seminal book that is still of great value today. And the same is true for the first signals from Sputnik, which woke up the United States and the international community, because a Russian space science was so advanced. And the same is true, by the way, for the soft landing on Mars, which was done by the USSR as well. We have entered a new area, first with Mir, where our space science, life science program was already involved, even more with the International Space Station. Again, opened or launched exactly 25 years ago, and in the meantime, more than 3,000 experiments have been performed on this International Space Station, constructed by the United States of America. About 60% of them are life science experiments. The rest is physics and many other things. And Alexander Gerst or Thomas Reiter, who's here, can tell you what they are. And we learned a number of things from these experiments that are relevant to human aging. And that's why a university hospital is so interested in space science or microgravity or zero gravity science, because we can learn in an abbreviated time and space more from they do animal experiments, and human physiology and biology that is enormously relevant to what we experience ourselves on Earth. And that is true for like the immune system, the thymus gland shrinking, the reactivation of viruses in our immune system, the change of immune cell function. This is a particular target of Alexander Schuker, who you already heard about in the last panel discussion. Brain alterations, and Peter zu Eulenburg is one of the lead investigators looking into or comparing environmental changes in microgravity to the brain compared to changes in the brain in Arctic isolations or in the human development of our patients, and immune dysfunction and allergies and autoimmune processes are another focus. These are just some of the papers that came out of this research collaboration and space science program at LMU Hospital. It's a place for studying aging and changes in the human heart or inflammaging or blood biomarkers that indicate aging, and there are at least 3 that have been reported during microgravity spaceflight. I was asked to talk about valorization too, and I must say that I had to look the word up. Although we are very much involved in startup companies, TUM is always known, the Technical University, as the startup capital of Germany. That is true, but not in life sciences. LMU is the startup engine for life sciences, and Martinsried Großhadern campus. From the hospital in the last 2 decades, 26 life science companies have been spun off, and 2 of them are so-called unicorns that were sold for over $1 billion. And these were always focused on life sciences. We're not that good at technical and engineering, but we are good at life sciences, and there are a number of new targets we are addressing. Crew interactive mobile companions. Simon, you will hear from Judith Buchheim about this, and I show you a picture. Immunity assays, headache research in space, exposome signature in the Neptune project, Relax Pro, and the Immuno projects in collaborations with other researchers. This is a full program for the next launch to the International Space Station, and I particularly like Simon here, the little floating. This is the Alexa of astronauts, I think, where you talk to, and you have an assistant to astronauts. You can ask questions, and you can get direction. The difference with Alexa is it's a lot heavier, but in zero gravity, it just floats in the space station. There are experiments with labs on a chip, which includes 3D questions addressing the blood-brain barrier. There are breath biopsies from which you can do a lot of microbiome research, as well as investigating metabolites. The brain is a specific focus on how the brain changes by Peter zu Eulenburg, particularly because in microgravity, the fluids don't go downwards in your body, but they go to the brain, and there even is a space-specific disease I had to learn about, spaceflight-associated neuroocular syndrome, or SANS. So there are even space-specific diseases we are investigating. And we try to simulate this on Earth when to improve patient care. What we learn from space research not only from space, but also from Antarctica. And this concludes my brief remarks why a hospital, a university hospital, has a spade flight program, and I hope I could convince you that this is something we learn on Earth from our own aspects of aging and disease, and which we can also turn into spinning off companies, preferably at our Großhardt and Martinsried campus, but nonetheless within the Munich science community. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you, Markus. Fascinating. Thank you also for reminding us that anesthesia was not with us. It's been like quite a recent invention. I'm curious, if you have to choose one technology, anesthesia or internet, what would you choose? Food for thoughts for the dinner later.